How are we going to shove a blown Duramax into this 66 rust bucket? We're going to show you.
It's time to nerd out on engines. In this episode, Gale walks the team through his vision for LokJaw's supercharged Duramax power plant.
It's kind of opening up my world, you know? You can be an old guy and be, I don't want to do it that way, kid.
Banks built, protected by AMSOIL, with support from Roadster Shop and Nitto.
Before we show you the engine we're trying to shove into this truck, you guys have had a lot of questions leading up to this point, and I want to answer a few of them. First question is from Dougie, and Dougie writes, why such a crazy engine in this old farm truck? I want to do a series of L5P Duramax-based performance crate engines. Now, performance has a whole lot of knobs on it. I want to do turbocharged versions, I want to do supercharged versions, I want to lay a little nitrous on top here and there, and I want to do a super turbo version. That might be 2 turbos, 1 blower, or 1 turbo, 1 blower. So we're using this project to develop the first version, which will be a supercharged, somewhere 700-800 horsepower, maybe 1,000, depends on what we do, if we use a little nitrous too. This is just going to be street fun, and it's going to look completely wrong. Next, I've got Fast Eddie 4. Why the fancy Discovery Channel production style? Don't you know you're on YouTube? Yes, I know we're on YouTube. Secondly, we don't do anything half-assed at Banks. I like to be involved in all the major things that are going on here, and video production is just one of them. But thanks for the compliment, because this is all homebrew production. There's nobody from Discovery Channel here. Fast Eddie, you're going to have to suffer through this or just not watch. Tennessee Tim, where's Gale? Right here. Here he is. You're looking at him. All right, I'll tell you where I've been. First of all, I've been working on patents, and they really are a grind. Pretty comprehensive patent was written and awarded in the past few months on our Pedal Monster product. That's our throttle booster. And with the award of the patent, we'll continue to do a lot of things on a throttle booster nobody else does. I've also designed a complete new oil control system, that being lube oil aeration and temperature control in the oil pan in a way that no one's ever done it before, and I've been awarded a patent. We're adding a new world-class dyno and emissions facility, and I'm kind of honchoing that. We just added another large building to our campus. I was on the roof of that office structure yesterday with the air conditioning guy mapping out the ducting. So there's all kinds of stuff going on around here, and I haven't mentioned my wife. And she's got a honey-do list, looks like the Dead Sea Scrolls. So, you know, I love doing this. I'll be here when I can. The next one is from Speed Gold 707. Why not set up the front end with the use of stock GM 3500 spindle and hub bearing assemblies? I'm giving this one to Eric. Why not?
Well, we're not using stock GM suspension, and so Roadster Shop will typically take a Pro spindle and they'll have it fixed in their own suspension, but they're not typically throwing in blown Duramaxes and 15-inch Willwood brakes and, you know, pushing it to limits like we will. So we teamed up with Kibitech. You know, we got the ball joint spread from Roadster Shop, so the fixed distance, and that way Kibitech was able to take a stock hub bearing and come up with a spindle design of their own that can house it in a compact package, but be able to handle everything we're going to throw at it.
And you need to mount the Willwood brakes.
Right.
That's different than stock 3500.
Right. So instead of shearing off the snout of a Pro spindle, we'll have the stock hub assembly bolted into the spindle.
Got it.
And then ultimately into Roadster Shop suspension.
Yes.
So it'll be able to take all the abuse we're going to throw at it.
And so you're 8-lug, and everything else works.
Exactly.
All right. There's the answer to that one. Timbo Jimbo, Why build a truck that only millionaires can afford? I love these guys. This type of a project is possible for almost anyone, literally. Now, sometimes it takes a number of years because it's a night project or what weekend project, a hobby project. Well, this is a hobby project. This truck could be done in someone's garage. So it might take a while, but it could be done anywhere. Okay, the next one is from J.K. Rowling, who's probably into Harry Potter, I would say. Why are you going with such large wheels? Well, we're putting 15-inch diameter brake rotors on the front. By the time you get it all done, you got a minimum 20-inch wheel. So if we're at 22, 23, 24, wherever we're at, it'll house all that. Plus, it's an 8-lug bolt pattern. And the hot rodding mentality is, don't follow the pack, do something different. And this truck is hugely different than most any rod I've ever seen. Okay, the last one is from Stephen Troyer. One of the most iconic things about the truck is the wood bed floor. Can you keep it? Stephen, this one is for you. Yes, we can. And here it is. I like it too. And if we color it right, it'll match the rust. So, where's the truck?
It's at Roadster shop. It's being 3D scanned.
Okay.
And Mike, their head of engineering, sent me an email last night and said, we need to know what we're putting in this thing. We're designing a chassis around it. So we've got Joshua from mechanical engineering and kind of figured we want to talk through this thing.
Okay. It sounds like, you've got a 38 caliber revolver and somebody sends you 50 caliber ammunition. It's like, how the hell do I get that in there?
I think what he's going to have to do is just take what we give him and then either works or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work...
Oh, we want it to work. Frame rails, mounting situation.
Suspension, I mean the upper control arms where they sit. We've got our headers.
We did a marine intake manifold charge air cooler that's water cooled. Guys have bought them and used them on pull trucks where you've got the water tank up front where the weight is. You run a pump to run the water through a low temp radiator, or if it's just a pull, you've got that tank full of ice water and you're melting ice and you're getting a hell of a chill. This I originally did for marine engine. There's one of them right there. This riser and a blower and an intake system and a blower drive and all that jive can mount. I put rails on the casting. In fact, don't we have one of the
Yeah. Holy mackerel.
Yeah. So the way this thing works, it's got runners. You can have the CAD for this? Sure. Let's put the runners on. So these runners were for all the engines up to L5P. They have 8 intake ports on each cylinder heads, individual intake ports. So we did these runners like ram tubes. In other words, we ram tuned the diesel. That's what that's all about.
Okay.
Now in an L5P, you don't have individual ports that come up to a sealing flange, a gasket surface. These are just in place. But they represent what we'll be doing here, but it won't be 8 individual runners. It will probably be 4, 1 for each cylinder. But it'll come up to the plenum. So if I turn the plenum upside down, you can see the 8 individual ports. This will change as well. These openings will become bigger. So, it's going to be 1, 2, 3, 4. This is clearance for pump and stuff up front. So when this thing's installed, it's the other way around. Now it's on the engine, rolling around to the back. This is water in and out of the heat exchanger, the intercooler core, or the charge air cooler core. I don't know if we can get a section through this or something like that. I'll just tell you. Basically, the air goes in the bottom, comes up through the core.
Oh, we've got a core over here.
Yeah, let's Okay, so,
Oh, geez. It still has water.
oh, there's water in it. Oh, I'll be damned.
Okay.
Okay, so this end of the core, the water in and out cap goes here. There's a divider here. So this seals, and the in and out cap, you can tell we've been running this thing. So water in, water out, that's a dry break. We've run these in boats already. It looks somewhat like this, and tested them with the Navy, 2 engines in one boat. Whole idea of this was an integrated core, and this is cupro nickel, so you can run salt water through this thing and it won't corrode the core. That cap we had has got some calcium and what have you in it. This is just running the engine on city water. If it was salt water and you had raw aluminum, the thing would last about 2 weeks, it just destroy it. We do put zinc anodes in these in production. So you have a sacrificial material, that's the zinc, if you're running salt water through these. So this baby goes inside, the air comes in here, flows up through the core, and then on the top, it's radiused. So as it comes out of the core, it flows into the ram tubes and down into the heads. That way, you could have 2 turbos, 1 turbo. Here we've got a single turbo. The compressor is lined up on that inlet port, so it's blowing down and in to the bottom plenum and up through the core. If we run a supercharger, that's a little bit different. So we've got a mounting plenum. Supercharger would mount on top of that. Okay. And then let's look at there you go. There's your air intake. But let's show there you go. So the blower is blowing down past the water cap and into the bottom of the manifold.
Gotcha.
Now let's throw some intake on there. So that's one way we could do it. That would be in the truck with the filters facing forward, perhaps. It's going to be way sexier looking than this. This is just blocking it out type of thing.
Right.
So there you have, from the front of the engine, of course, you'll have a blower drive that'll all drop down. Can we put our racing viscous damper in there? So we're doing a racing damper, and this could be used on the street. It could be used anywhere. But basically, if you roll it around, you'll see there's 2 belt planes. Actually, there's 3. This is the stock belt plane, Duramax stock belt plane. We've made it smaller because we're going to turn the engine faster, and you don't want to overdrive any accessories. You don't want to drive them too fast. So we're underdriving the stock belt plane so we can run the engine RPM up and not frag whatever we're driving.
Right.
So there you go, perfect, just like that. There's the stock belt plane. There's the Dry-sump belt plane. So we're set up 20 millimeter?
20 minutes, yes.
Yeah. So this is set up for a 20 millimeter belt. It's got side guide or clearance. There's some little nuance here that you don't, there. That is the belt channel, so to speak, and it's a 1/2 millimeter or so above this surface on this 6-rib stock Chev. What are we, 12 rib here?
Yes.
12. Yeah, so this is the vibration damper itself. And it bolts to this drive hub, which consists of this Chev, this Dry-sump drive, and we've also got back here a trigger wheel. Now on L5Ps, timing happens here on a trigger wheel that's on the rear of the crankshaft. So to do that, you have to cut part of the counterweight away. I don't want to do that. So what we do is we make an O-ringed plug that bolts in, blanks that. This is the blower drive. If you want to drive the supercharger, you got to have some place to do it. I want to move away from the cog belt, the traditional like top fuel thing, and do this 12 rib. It gives us the ability to wrap tighter if we need to on the blower itself. We want to turn the blower in the 20,000 RPM area, 18, it'll go well over 20, this new 3.8 Whipple. And Whipple's working on some step-up gears to put in the front case in case we have to get the blower shaft speed to the ideal. Diesels don't turn that fast. Fastest we've been so far is 6,300 RPM. So the damper is tuned and the tune can be changed by changing the mass of the ring inside. Now you can change it without changing its physical size. You can make it out of cast iron, you can make it out of bronze. You know, various materials have different densities. So that changes the inertial mass. You can change the viscous fluid. So you get different shear characteristics, different damping characteristics, if you will. This thing is incredibly tunable, and it doesn't have a bunch of O-rings, rubber O-rings that
are going to decompose.
Yeah, they heat up and decompose, and you have to rebuild it. It's ridiculous. This thing will go 500,000 miles, and it's a racing damper. So think that one through. All these rubber dampers, including the stock damper, won't do the job. Just will not. This thing will do the job, and you can run it forever and not rebuild the damn thing. Imagine me telling the guys in the Navy, yeah, once you get out there, pull the damper, replace the O-rings. If they're melted a little bit, use these that are a little harder. You don't have your customer do the goddamn engineering. And if you have to rebuild the thing all the time, it's worthless. But everybody buys them like sheep, you know, like lemmings jumping off the cliff into the ocean.
Sadly.
Jesus. I'm going to shine some light on this whole damper thing. I just did, I think. So there you have our damper assembly. And oh, by the way, if you want to bolt another drive to it, it's got a 6-bolt pattern to drive more pulleys if you want them.
Brilliant.
So it's kind of cool. There's our blower drive. There's our dry-sump drive. And in this truck, we have to do a dry-sump.
Yeah,
because
you'd smash the oil pan.
We're going to lay frame. And if we lay frame, it'll crush the oil pan. So we got to do this. So the lowest point on this will be the pan on the transmission probably.
Right.
Which is higher than the stock oil pan, I believe. So we can't run the stock oil pan. We haven't tooled the one that embodies my inventions, which I'm dying to do, but it won't work on this anyway because it'll be too deep for this. So we got a dry sump. So there is kind of the dry sump assembly, a pump kind of roughed into the area. To give you some idea, belt drive right through here. This thing will be dry sumped, which is kind of, in a rusty old truck, that's kind of cool.
Pretty high tech.
Yeah. So, what else?
Well, we've got.
What else have we got? The exhaust.
Exhaust.
Yeah.
Yeah. The width of the engine could be the problem to fit in to the frame rails.
Yeah. I wonder what the width is across the flanges at the back. Are we around 30 inches?
I mean, I got to imagine, Gale, that our upper control arm mounts are right here, right, Eric?
Yeah.
We'll need some heat shielding.
I mean,
definitely.
I got to imagine that they're coming out right here.
Yeah.
That'll be the exhaust manifold flange will be the widest point.
Yeah. So it's under 30
29,
inches.
it's just right under 30, yes.
29 and an eighth, 29 and 3/16, roughly, somewhere in there. There's going to be some heat shielding here. I think what I'd like to do on the castings, and speaking of the castings, this is an alloy that will take heat cycles. Caterpillar, this is an alloy they developed for real heavy duty, long duration, doesn't corrode, and you can heat cycle it and it doesn't crack. And it doesn't grow and it doesn't shrink. It's a stable alloy. Unfortunately, it's a bitch to machine.
Yes.
It's really hard to machine.
Yes.
So,
Very difficult.
but I've insisted we go with that. This is our new L5P style manifold. We need to put some heat shield bosses to attach the heat shield. Now, on the earlier trucks, we built these for the earlier trucks as well, pre-L5P Duramaxes.
This current design only has driver's
It-
side
it-
has the.
We
has
ship
the
it with a
mounting.
heat shield that protects the steering. And that's it. That's it. And that's all that's required in a stock pickup.
Right.
But this is going to be close to the suspension, and you've got rubber, or you've
got
got
airbags.
urethane, or you've got airbags. So we want to tie the heat shielding nicely to this. Now the heat shielding might not be anything other than an infrared air barrier steel or stainless heat shield. Or it could have an outer shell, which is stainless and looks really bitchin', with heat shielding material captured by it. Now you've got all forms of heat handled.
Right.
Yeah. So I wanted to add that in. And we've got bosses here for exhaust pressure and exhaust temperature as well. So
Yep. Got 2 ports.
yeah, you can see them quite well there. And so thermocouple pressure. I always want to know the drive pressure at the manifold outlet or exhaust manifold pressure, because that's what the piston's working against when it pushes the exhaust through the valve and into that manifold. So I want to minimize the in manifold back pressure, if you will. I also want to know on any up pipes or the connecting pipes to the turbo. I want to measure drive pressure right at the turbine inlet, so I know the pressure here and the drive pressure at the turbine inlet. I know my up pipe loss, and I want to minimize my up pipe loss. If you make the up pipes too big, you lose throttle response, because the exhaust density coming out has to fill up those pipes, the manifolds too, and those up pipes before you kick the turbine in the ass. More volume you've got to fill to kick the turbine in the ass, the slower the response. So there's kind of a balance between drivability and peak performance. And if you look at the stock GM stuff, they're splitting that nicely for a pickup truck at that power level. But we're going to be moving a lot more exhaust gas through the turbine. And so we're still going to do the same thing. We're not going to oversize them too much. So there'll still be a pressure loss in the pipe at peak horsepower.
I think another thing that may interfere will be the stock oil cooler that will run right into the frame. So we gotta
Good point. Good point.
have a solution.
This is the stock oil cooler assembly. This 2020 or 2021 oil cooler assembly on the L5P really kicks ass on the 17 through 19 L5P, which kicks ass on the earlier oil coolers. They just get better, 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 better. I want to run this oil cooler. Let's look at it from the ass end. It's within that 30-inch width I'm trying to hold. You know, from that flange corner
Sure.
to that flange corner. What's going on here? There you go.
It's square now.
You had to mount that.
Yeah.
So,
It's just inside.
yeah. So if your frame rail's out here, we're good to go.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, that's inspiring.
And of course, the dry sump pump is
Right.
well within. This pipe is not round. It looks round when you look at it this way, but it's ob-round.
We need that to clear the firewall.
Yeah.
Not much room.
You see ob-round
area.
tubing a lot in a NASCAR exhaust, where the ground clearance is low. We're doing the same thing here. We're getting a lot of flow. That kind of roughs out the engine.
Now, transmission, right?
Let's put a transmission on this thing. This is going to be an Allison. I don't know if this is the shortest pan we can do on an Allison. This filter is kind of,
Yeah, there's 2 pans.
Yeah.
When I was looking up at the Allison brochure,
That might be the
there's
shallower
a
one.
deep and a shallow.
yeah.
Yeah,
Which one do we have on this?
that's the shallow, right?
This is the shallow one.
Yeah.
So from the crank center line to the bottom of the pan, and from the crank center line to the bottom of the frame rail. When you lay frame, you don't want to lay oil pan.
Right.
You don't want this to hit the street. So you need some daylight when you lay frame. And that controls the center line of the crankshaft. We easily accommodate any cross members that go under the engine. And we're not showing, but I believe there's a cross member somewhere in here.
Yeah, there is.
So that occupies this. Be nice to know their frame elevation, but they're going to take this and make it clear the street when you lay frame. I'm not a big airbag fan, but you know, this is kind of a group effort here. We got ideas from different areas, and I wouldn't do it exactly like this if it was just me, but it's kind of opening up my world, you know? You can be an old guy and be, I don't want to do it that way, kid. But no, I'm an enlightened old man, I hope.
You know you guys want to see Gale pull up and air this thing out.
Oh, Jesus, I just had a mental picture of that. Do I have to wear a fedora or what?
Oh, that would be awesome.
You know, rock the fedora and lay frame and
Yes,
hit the
please.
Switches. Hit the switches. Why not? But you got to rock the hat with a little feather.
There you go.
And a stingy brim. I already got the hat.
He does, people. He really does.
Yeah. All right, guys. As far as the internals, that's a bit of magic we'll share with you soon. This model, that's what's going to the Roadster shop. Good luck with it, guys.
In the next episode, the guys head back to Kippy Tech Off-Road while LokJaw gets 3D scanned.
If you're enjoying this, I'd like you to like and subscribe. And if you're on YouTube, hit that notification bell.